You want to share your yourself? Feel free to take chocolate. I'm not doing all this, so I take it home so I don't change it. So, just out of curiosity, who here is not CS? You are CS, for sure. Not you either. CS? CS? I was told there might be non-CS people here, so I'll make sure I look at you. We'll start soon. We'll start now. Hello everybody. My name is Suwan. I'm one of the tutors of Learning Commons. I just graduated this past spring. I'm currently at Cornell Tech, but I'm back here because I kind of need money. So today we're going to be talking about Python. I'll do a disclaimer. I'm not a Python fan inherently. I'm more of a Java person. But that being said, I can't deny just how important of a tool Python is. So, but there's a reason why everyone knows, right? If you go to any CS major now, in this current age, you ask them what language you use, almost all of them will say Python. It's a bit, the reason is because it's so easy to type. On the top right corner, he's actually the person who created Python. Dutch programmer Guido van Rossum. He's currently working at Microsoft. I think he is a distinguished engineer at Microsoft right now. But he's the one who created Python. Why did he create Python? Well, because if you know C++, Java, for those who aren't CS majors here, they're basically way more complicated coding languages. And he looked at it, he was like, I don't like this. I'm going to create something more simpler, more easy to read, more easy to write. And that's where you got Python from. Easier to understand, huge community, like I said, almost all CS people nowadays use Python. Cross-platform use, a lot of companies, a lot of sources use Python. And the big reason why everyone knows Python is because libraries. If you don't know what a library is, it's kind of like an extra set of toolbox for extra tools you can use for programming. Fun fact, this was Python was like a whole hobby process. He wasn't even serious about it, but it ended up being how it is now. But that being said, all programming languages do have pros and cons, and even though it is so popular, Python, there are a lot of benefits to using it. The pros are it's easy to learn, like I said, it's like pseudocode in English. So it's easy to read, easy to learn, easy to write. There's a huge library for support. For anyone coming in right now, huge library support. So if you need anything, there's usually a library for it. And because of this library, a lot of libraries make it so that it's easy to use for data and AI. So a lot of data analysis is not applied regardless if you're CS or not. Anything data related, you'll see Python being used for it because Python is so good at like analyzing data. It's easy to write. But it comes with cons. Python is English. We speak English, computers don't. Computer speaks in ones and zeros. Because of that, it is usually a bit more complicated for computers to convert Python into something that they can run. And that's why you'll see in a lot of like big companies that for tasks that are related closely to the computer, they won't use Python because of just how slow it is. I'm speaking loud enough for like everybody to hear me. Okay. It could be a bit tedious, especially when compared to like other programming languages where the like more succinct what everything is. Python you gotta like assume a bit, so it's not inherently obvious what everything is at first. And although it's really good, it's mostly used for backend. What I mean by backend is if you look at websites, what's behind the scenes, you can't use Python to build websites. So that's like a whole other language you need to use for it. Where other structures for creating some website type thing like Java as a Java GUI for those who are in people. Python has that. And memory. Once again, because it is a language that isn't like succinct, everything's not obvious, it has to use a lot of memory to make sure everything's in place. I'm gonna like speak to your presentation, I'm not trying to turn this into a lecture. But once again, we can't deny just how big Python is. These are all the companies that use Python to some extent. You got Google, Dropbox, Amazon, Instagram, Netflix, and such. Morgan, big companies, right? Once again, it's important. So even if, like me, you're not a big Python fan, it's still an important tool to use because it's so widely used and it's so helpful. And it's not just for computer science, it's kind of like one of those Swiss Army knives where you can use it for anything. In business and economics, you could analyze sales data. Once again, it's big for like data analysis, that type of stuff. Biology, medicine, studying DNA sequences, simulating biological systems, patient data, once again, you see data being used. And education, for those who are doing something education related, you can automate stuff. AI is big nowadays, and AI is a lot of Python behind it. So, creating, processing data, once again, you see how like data is a big thing. Data, right? So you see just how big Python is in terms of data usage. And analyzing data. And once again, in sociology, processing survey results, analyzing behavior, it's a lot of data. So you see a lot where Python, data. So that's my little 5-minute spiel. I'm not good at spiels, so let's get into the interactive notebook. If you scan the QR code above, it's going to take you to a quick Google form. A Microsoft form. All you gotta do is put your email, submit, and it will email you the notebook. Because I'm not, especially for those who aren't CS majors, I'm not gonna make you download the Visual Studio Code and like some old coding software. So instead, I'm gonna do it on Google Notebook. And if you wanna learn Python and you don't wanna like do all the downloading, it's a good way to learn using Google Notebook. So once you scan it, it'll email it to you. Just gotta make a copy of it. Preferably do it on your computer or tablet. I don't know if you're gonna be able to do the coding on your phones, but still, like, it'll email you the link to the notebook to whatever like email you use. So I'll take a few minutes for that. Let me know if it works. Basically, if it comes up, this is what's gonna look like. Right, just a black notebook. Right. Also, for those who came late, there's a lot of chocolate. I thought there would be more people here, so I got a lot of chocolate. I'm not taking it all home, but feel free to help yourselves for anyone who can chocolate sticks. But this is what it's going to look like. You basically gotta, you won't be able to edit inherently. You gotta use pick file, make a copy, save a copy in your drive, right? And once you do that, you'll be able to edit it. So I'm going to keep the QR code up a bit. I spoke it for 7 minutes. I think I'm not trying to speak too long, but I'm going to wait again. Not pretty. Scan the code. Let me know if it does or does not work. Once everyone has that, we're good to go. I think we'll take a good time of time. Do you want me to send a collab with us to your email?
Yeah, it's fine.
Anyone still in the QR code? Good. Or
It's probably just my phone.
I'll just share it with you. You have your Gmail? I promise I'll let mine in the photos. If you scan the QR code, they'll take you to a form. You put your email in the form, and it'll automatically send you. Okay, let me just pull. This was the presentation. Does anyone have any these are like little, they're little code blocks, right? If you press one, it should run underneath, right? So everything is pretty straightforward. If you want to add more code blocks, you can feel free like hover over here, you can add code blocks, right? So, and code block. We'll go over like all the introductory stuff in a bit. Enter, code block, right? Right? Feel free to play around. You can add more code blocks. You can add more text blocks, right? Underneath, like for those who want to go ahead. Just practice SQL problems. And yeah. So play around with it. I'll be right back. I guess that takes some technical issues. Okay, so. So this is working on here. Can you copy it? Okay. Just test something. You can press play on your first line on your share. Scroll down to okay, we're good. Everyone good? Everyone got it? Everyone good? We're good?
I'll just run kind of slow, I think. It's not great.
It's not running. Is it running?
Oh, it maybe it's just
Good. Okay. Okay. So, Python. I want this to be just me talking, because I already do a lot of talking as it is. My voice is going to get lose my voice. But let's go through it. So, once I think a lot of you here are CS majors, so I think you all know like the basics of the variables and printing. We're still going to go over it, but once again, this is like introductory thing. So let's go through the basics. So variables. In code, we need to store information. And the best way to do that is variables, right? Think of variables as like little blocks. You can create a new variable right here. Well, let's go over it. In Python, I think a lot of you know the classic print hello world. In Python, like in other languages, it's a bit more convoluted how to print. But in Python, you see just how easy to read it is. It's just print whatever you want to print, right? Print. Right? Pretty easy. Oh, like little. If you want to do comments, for those who like are into coding, I highly recommend comments to like label different parts of your code. It's good coding practice, and it'll just help you in trying to organize your code, especially when other people read it. Okay, so print statements once again, very easy. You see just how like y is created the reloader, a portion of it. Print whatever you want. Inside here are strings. For those who don't know what a string is, basically it's anything you put in quotation marks, right? It's like anything, it's text, right? Here you can put single quotation marks, you can put double quotation marks, and you put a string. And you have other values such as ints. Ints are basically numbers. If it's a whole number, it's an integer. If it's a decimal, double. Good? Everyone good? Python, we have variables. So once again, in other languages, you would have to declare the type of the variable. Like if you create a box for a variable, you need to tell what can you put in the box. In Python, though, you don't need to do that. You put the name of the variable, and you just put whatever you put it in. And this is where, remember, I hope you remember my presentation, how I said like it's all memory stuff. It's very slow. Because once you do this, Python inherently in the backend assumes what should do that makes sense, right? So here I'm saying x is 5. I don't need to say what type of box x is. I'm just creating a box, labeling it x, and putting 5 in it. Python does the work of assuming x is like an integer. Okay? So another example, name. I want to declare the name of a variable. Give me a name of a variable. Give me a name. User interaction. Give me a name of a variable. Give me a name. Huh? What do you want to use? What do you want to use? 25. Right. 40. Barbell. See how it doesn't give an error? Right? You can fake the reactions too. I'm not going to take offense. But like you see, in other languages, in other languages, it will give an error. It's like saying, first you're saying, oh, it's an integer, a number. Now you're saying it's text. Like, which one is it? Whereas in Python, because of like how it's built, it doesn't give me an error. Right? I can inherently barbells is being a box. I put whatever I want in box. Okay? Variables. Everyone okay with that? So that's how variables work. Any questions? Please stop me if I'm going too fast. Oh shoot, guys, tell me guys your name. Is this more visible? Better?
For sure, yes.
You gotta let me know if it's not visible. It's dark. Is this better?
Yes.
You both sign in and take in. Happy birthday. Is this birthday?
Happy birthday.
How do you doing? Feel free to take those candies off. All right. So, okay. Is everyone okay with prints? Everyone okay with that? Variables. Everyone okay with variables?
Wait, question.
Question.
Since you did barbell 25, barbell Lewis, does that mean there's like a, I guess, int barbell 25 and a string barbell Lewis? I guess.
Well,
okay.
oh. So now we see print barbell. What are you doing?
Lewis.
Who's 25? Size?
Oh, well, I guess we will take the string. But is it just because it's sequential?
Yes. It's whatever's going to assign to it weights. Right? For example, now if I did, say, barbell equals 100. For example, no one loses on. Right? It's sequential. It's whatever's the latest. Any questions? Other questions?
Can you indicate which barbell you want to print?
What do you mean by which barbell?
Like, if you wanted the first one to print to the last one.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Like you want, so you want it to print, so you're saying like think of this like barbell 1, barbell 2, barbell 3. The thing with that, because of, this is like another one of the downsides of Python, because of how variables are created, we don't have, like you can't go back to a specific state of what the variable was. Just whatever the latest one. That's why you gotta be careful. And that's why, that's why you gotta be careful when you declare variables, and like you gotta keep track of it. It's hard to keep track of. 200 lines later in the code, there's another barbell instance of a barbell. If I'm reading the code in that instance, I don't know whether it's a string or a number. Right? That's a downside. That's why like Python, like in other languages, you know the instance when you declare it. But even later on, you can like reasonably decide whether it's one type or the other. In Python, you don't have that. Right? If I'm a programmer, I'm reading this code, 200 lines of, I'm not going to remember what we put in the declares initially. I'll be confused like, what is it? I'll have to type it, which is another answer. So it's 50 points. It's easier to write. No worry, you don't have to like declare what it is beforehand. But it's a trade-off. Any other questions? Back to print statements. There are ways you can print variables inside the print statements. Right? Sometimes you want to print a sorted variable. So we got two examples here. A couple examples. Hello name. If you want to add variables, you use commas to add them together. It'll concatenate them. It'll combine them. Sorry. I don't see that here. You can use the plus sign. Once again, it's the same thing. It adds them together. The one I like to use the best is this F. It basically allows you to input whatever variables in like little curly braces. So you don't have to like always use like the plus sign or commas. You can just whatever word is the variable, and it'll allow you to like input it. So hello name, you are X years old, right? So you're going down here. So you get the palettes, top three, all for the same thing, but I like this one. Hello blank, you are years old, right? Okay. And once again, this is just showing other variable types. Bool is true or false. It's a true or false statement. This is actually bad programming practice right here. When declaring variable names, do not use names of other things. Does that make sense? You don't want a variable name to be bool, because bool is something else. You don't want to name your variable true. True equals something, because true has its own value. Right? True equals, right, 10. That's going to be there. I can't set true. Like, there are a lot of keywords in Python and other programming languages as well, and you can't set equal to things. Here, it doesn't really get there, so it still prints it. But yeah. Don't miss it. Once again, double, you got decimals. This isn't really a 111 course, so I'm not really telling you this. But y plus x, we see y is a double, x is 5. It'll add them together and it'll turn 6.5. In 111, you probably learned the rules like int plus double, double plus int. Mix expressions. But yeah. Is everyone okay? Is everyone giving me a little pulse check? I feel like it was been a bit quiet. Everyone good? 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 Any questions?
I just, so there used to be a long and a short, they had like, you might see that in old code bases, but not, is that?
Long, short, you're talking like floats and long, okay. Like, I know what you're saying. Like in C++ and Java, they have long, short. It's basically like different ways of storing. Like long is like longer. You can store more, short is shorter. I think Python, there is a way. There might be, you have to like show those, there might be a signature at the end of the number. Right, I think we should do that. I don't think that works here. But there must be like, I think in here there must be, but you could, there must be a way to like have like some signature at the end, like a letter at the end. Some programming language that indicates this is long and short. Like maybe more storage. That's not sure. Answer the question. Everyone okay with printing stuff? Because everybody wants to control flows. Okay, control flows. I am talking about control flows are basically statements. If you ever been to an amusement park and you're like, you can only ride this ride if you're a certain height, that's if statements. We don't want everything to run like inherently. We want to have some control over what we're running, right? If something is true, or while something is true, we want it to go. Right? So we got the first one. Effective true. Oh, if true see how X is declared here? It's basically for the entire number of X's, right? So if everyone's confused about that, there might be no X here, right? But it's talking about X here. Here. Right? So if X is greater than 3, frames X is big, right? Get X is big. Pretty simple, right? We're checking conditional. This inherently is a bool statement. It's a true or false statement. If it's true, we do whatever's in the indentation. Otherwise, we don't. Okay? Okay. Before I go on to the loops, I'm gonna go over, let's skip a bit. We're gonna do else statements. Sometimes you don't want to check one thing. Sometimes you don't want to check one thing. You want to check multiple things. So like if one case fails, you have another case. Right? That's where you have a question. No. That's where you have else if. This is else if. Right? So if it doesn't run here, you check else, otherwise, check this. Right? And then usually else is like if all other cases fail, it's like the case. Right? We want something to run. You ever agree with that? And like other languages, you'll see like if, else if, but like apparently it's too lazy to write else if, so you just go. Right? Else. Right? You see here? X is 10. If X is greater than 5, X is big. Otherwise, it's greater than 3, medium, small. Right? So right now it's big. Say I change it to 4. It's medium. The checks here, no. Right? Otherwise, I'll say it's 1. So over 2 is small. It's a little small. Okay, but once again, don't just look at the screen. Feel free to like play around with it on your own computers. Feel free to like add more statements, and that's why I gave collateral books. Any questions about that? That's basically your statements. Any questions? I'll take a quick pause right here to take questions. Everyone good? Everyone's had a good day? I thought it would be sunny today, but it's like very cloudy. Like the stupid bus and Flushing, I was looking for it. The 25 is right past us. Like emptied out. No, like no more. Just past us. I'm sorry, I'm writing it. Any questions? Any questions? Yeah, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. Who's lying to you? Don't.
So,
I don't have a question.
let's go over loops. Basically, the first thing we're going to go over is while loops, right? Sometimes we want to check something for like one instance. Other times we want to check something repeatedly, right? So here, we're currently, whenever you have a while loop, you have, once again, same thing with if. You have while something, right? But the one thing I want to make clear is inside the while loop, you usually see like an updater of some sort, right? You need to have some sort of updater. Like here it's saying while x is greater than 5, x minus 1, right? You subtract 1. Why that's the case, if I delete this, or prompt it out, one thing I want to warn you is if you don't have something inside the while loop to update constantly what you're checking, it'll like keep going infinitely. It'll either never run or always or never stop. For example, if you run a code like that in the C++, like a server on PC, it doesn't stop, it will break the servers and it'll get very angry, right? So it's important in while loops, right? I'm checking something. Inside the loop, I have something to like update it in some way, right? And we have some action as well, right? Pretty nice. Okay, everyone good with that? Good. While loops. Well, as programmers, got even lazier. We have for loops, right? This is if we know a specific range, right? So instead of having like a specific check, and then we have the updater, here we're just directly writing out our range, right? For I is 5, this is basically saying from I is 0 to 4, 1 less than 5. Are you okay with that? Also, another thing I want to point out, if you do check out these functions, right? Feel free to like, Google Colab will tell you a lot of information on like what the parameters are, what they could like, the function does, right? Like we got frames. screen, yada yada. Right, so once again, I give you the cloud notebook. Play around with it. Try to start on your own. Do you want the cloud notebook? Wait, let me just put it. Tempo. Everyone okay with that though? I'm just like, I'm constantly saying that everyone's okay with that. Don't worry, it's gonna get much more fun after this day. Hopefully. Okay, so while he's thinking, are you good? Yeah. The hope is like today, I don't say it's boring, but it's just the basics. The goal is afterwards we like go into actual data stuff. So we're gonna generate graphs. We're gonna I'm thinking of either like getting data from like a public website. So like if you go on and see open data, right? There's all sorts of data available here to use. So we're probably gonna do a project where we use this data to create some sort of graph or some analysis sorts. That's the whole. But today is a bit boring because it's just going over the basics. Is everybody okay with loops? I'm looking everywhere, okay? Good, good, good. Very good, very good.
I have a quick question. The second model says that it says that x equals to 10, but I don't see a point where we change the x value to 10.
Oh, I changed it here. What is it? Sorry, what were you saying? For the while loop here.
Yeah, the second one, yeah. So my question was like, when I ran it, the first while it goes from 0 to 4, because it's in range of 5.
Yeah.
But then for the second one, it starts at 10, and I didn't see a point where we change the value from x equal 10.
Because if you, in the original version of the code, I had like x equals 10 here. So when I ran it, once again, let's go back to the case, it takes the latest runtime when you run it. So it assumes x is 10 here. That's why it's running up all the time. Here we go right now. Alright, good. Oh my gosh, I think it's supposed to get to just. Let's assume it's 2. Yep, see? 9 It's wherever you last ran x. Good? Okie dokie. Functions. Once again, that's pretty boring. So, another good practice in programming, we don't want to repeat code. And sometimes we use this repeated code, we put in little machines, little places, where we can use that little machine anytime. So we're good.
Yeah, I don't know how to talk right here. I mean, I don't know how to say it.
There you go, as long as you have, that's it. Feel free to like make a copy of it on your own drive so you'll be able to like do it afterwards as well. So in Python, this is another reason where I think all of you are C. Do you know how like C you have like curly braces? You know what I'm talking about? Right? Curly braces to indicate functions in like different sections. In Python, you don't have that. You have indentation. Right? So this is, I feel like this is key. You don't have, in order to tell all different places, like I want to show that anything in greet, this is all that's in it, right? So I have to use indentations. If I do, name, right, and right, this indentation for all the lines shows that all of these lines are part of this function. Right, I want to like show this back here. For a while, it's the same thing, right? Everything here is in under this while. Okay, so indentations are very important. It's not like in Java or C++ where you can use curly braces, right? You have to use indentations, right? So, say we have this function, right? And we can now use this function wherever we want, right? Creating this, running. See, now I've saved extra 3 lines of code. I keep writing it once and then calling it multiple times, right? It seems a bit trivial now, having it because it's only 3 lines, So once you create functions that are like a lot of lines, and you'll see eventually when you do like run data things, we're gonna have functions that have like their own little niches and are very important. Having like the side function and being able to call it multiple times is important. Very good. Other functions, once again, you got the add function, and add equals 2, so 3. Here we got a complicated function, and we have parameters. Okay, so, let me talk about parameters. Everyone's good with function title language, right? Right? So this is the name of the function, wherever I call it, for the name, read. And in the parentheses, this is parameter. This is basically anything but it's gonna have a function, right? So here we have one parameter, where you see string name. Once again, see how like I never declared it as a string, but it assumes it's a string. Right? Once again, everything's like full circle. Right? Here we have two parameters, a is a number, b is a number. Right? So whenever I call it, I have to use 2. So if I do print add 3. See? It will give an error. So it needs to match. Is everyone hear that? Just like, if you're bored, I completely understand this. If you're why you're bored, this is just basics. I gotta go over it because I have to go over it. But yeah, you have 2 parameters. I passed in 1, and it gave me an error. Right? Because I have one more parameter here. It runs smoothly. Where it is. So, okay. And then this is another example function, right? Complicated. We have 3 parameters. It just print a, b, c, return a plus b times c. Right? We call this function multiple times. Okay, so I do print. Once again, do this on your own. I feel like that's important. You have to just look at the screen. Don't just fully do it. Right? See? And you can use this one tool. Just one define machine. However many times you want. Okay. Question? Hi.
So when we're able to add the strings to an integer using brackets, can we do the same thing when we're calling a function?
What do you
Like, let's say we have a print there, right? Like, the result of, if I get a string of 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, so in addition, like, so the, quotation marks. Yeah, we just write, your final result. And then,
And you could, oh yeah, you do.
like that.
Yeah, you could use print functions. You could use like this. I
Do
prefer
that, but then within, outside the function, call the function, the inputs. Like, let's say we move that outside the function, right? Where the other print statements are, could we, instead call the function within the brackets, and then the data, that's the word.
Yep, you can do that as an example. That's another use of it. That's complicated. Right? So this is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
You can use it. This is another good use of it. See, we have complicated. I should have taught that. For a lot of these functions, if you return something, so this works because complicated returns an integer number, like a number, right? Basically, in functions, whenever you have a return statement, like type, anything after the return statement will never run. Right? So I gotta complete nonsense after it. Right? It will never run. Wherever it hits the first return statement, it always stops there and goes immediately back to wherever it was called. Okay? Seems to say that. Right? From what you said, right? It should run. Final result is whatever the answer is. So it ran the function, got the result, and prints it out. See how after the result was given, it never like printed this line or returned 10 or printed that line? That stops. It goes immediately back. Okay. 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 Don't worry about this one. Lists. You know, you might know arrays. Python has its own things. It's lists. Sometimes, like I said, having one box is enough. You need multiple boxes. So lists are a sequence of boxes. Right? And this is just basically an example of it. Once again, like other declaring variables, you'll need to really declare the type of the list, put it, and put in the elements, right? Before I go any further. Is everyone okay? You have a question?
I was just, are lists the same as arrays in JavaScript?
Inheritance. Lists are, yeah. I think in Java it's array lists, C++ is vectors, some, yeah, it's just other lists. Whereas I think in Java, it's not the same as arrays specifically, because arrays you can't change the size of. In Python you can change the size by adding values. And for example, I make it like a pen, a little bit. But in like other languages like C++ and Java, once you declare the size of an array, it won't change the array. In order to create one that is a changeable size, you have array lists or vectors. Right? So it's inherently. It's not the same as arrays, but as turtles are using it. It's basically an array where you could change the size. Alright. Once again, we're going to use a print, and if I use just fruits, it'll print every single element, right? It'll print the entire array. Once again, this is very similar to like regular arrays in other languages. You can print individual elements by using the indices, so 0, 1, 2, same as other languages. But the thing with the lists is you can also go in reverse, right? Say you wanted the second last element, or last element. You would have to, instead of using, in Java, you would use list stuff like radon length minus whatever, right? In Python, you would just go minus. So -1 prints the last element, right? -2 goes second to last. -3, right? Third to last. Who goes in reverse? Questions? Any questions? Question? But yeah, that's why it may look weird. Negative instances. 0 positive goes in the first forward direction. Negative goes in the reverse direction. Right? Be careful. This is start at 0.
So negative ones are the cherry, negative 2 is banana, negative 3 is apple.
Right? Cherry banana. Once again, if I want to loop through, there's different ways you can do it, right? There are 2 main ways you can do it. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of for each loop. If you have, it's basically for every element in the data structure. For every element in the data structure, I want to do something with it.
Is that enhanced for you? Is that what it is? The enhanced for you?
Maybe.
Like for this item in?
Yeah, it's for each. That's what I said. For each. Basically, for every item in a list of items or object item, container items, I want to print that, right? It's the same thing in this case where we have indices, right? For I, the range, the length of the function, right? The length function, you have the object, right? For I and range, the length of the data structure, I want to print the element, right? This is useful if you know how the data structure is indexed, right? For example, if I don't know, this isn't a list, right? I'm not sure. Like here I know this index is like 0, 1, 2. Let's say I don't know the indices. That's when you usually use for each loops, right? For every item in a group of items, you want to do something with it. Right? So that's a for. Either one works. Whichever one you use is up to your preference. So yeah, if I hover over fruit, so fruits is a list of fruits. See that? Any questions about that? I'm trying to go. You guys doing good?
So what's that for? For fruit and fruits.
For fruit and fruits. It's basic, you could use whatever name you want. So for F and fruits, right? This is basically saying for every object in a container of objects, I want each object.
Oh, the length of
Not inherently. It's kind of like I'm putting my hand in the array, and every time there's something else I can pick, I just take it out.
Oh, so there's nothing else.
No, those are like exactly. This F is inherently the amount of whatever you want. It's usually like better to keep the naming consistent, like for fruits in fruits, an example. But this is basically saying for every time I put my hand in the fruits, I take out random fruit, do whatever I want with it, then repeat. You keep doing it until there's something left. Right? Whereas here, using the 4-line range, that's more likely we know which individual is of the list. But sometimes it's not the case that you know it. Right? So it's each one has their own excuse. Yeah. All right. More methods.
Quick question.
Hi.
I don't know if you answer that, but when you go to the top, when it prints in the -1 thing, what is that going based on?
So in regular, like when you print indices, right, you have 0, 1, 2, 3. In Python in lists, you can also go in reverse. So say, like in Java or C++, I want the last element, I would do list.length -1, right? But in Python, you use -1, and it prints the last element. Does that make sense? So you can go in reverse.
Got it.
I'm sorry, yeah. Okay. Additionally, the useful thing about lists in Python is that they're mutable. You could change length of them. You could add more items, and it won't blow up, right? So I get a pen orange. It basically ends it right at the end of the list, right? So it's not too difficult. Pen apple. And then, this is a nice little thing. You could print the number of times apple appears in the list. Like, these are just useful functions. Afterwards, if you are interested, feel free to like go to the Python libraries and like see all the methods corresponding with lists. Good. Right, so you see here, apple, banana, cherry. Right. I can also insert at specific indices. Right. So instead of a pen does it right at the end of the list. Insert does it wherever you want. So you have to specify where you want to insert it. Right? So I'm going to insert it at 1. You see here, it inserts it right here. So originally the banana, and moves banana over. Right? Once again. And you can also remove. Right? For example, I want to remove the banana. I'm not a banana person. This basically finds the first instance of this item in the list, removes it, and then adjusts it accordingly. Okay. See that? And then, once again, similar how append does it right at the end of the list, and remove you have to specify. If you do pop, this just once again, similar to append, does whatever you do at the end of the list. Right? So I want to pop off the last element and list. Right now it's apple, right? So when you pop, it'll take off apple. Right. Apple. Good.
What is dot count? What is it?
Dot count returns the number of. It basically returns the number of times a specific item appears in the list. Right? It's useful. It's
So
mostly
you would get the length of the list.
you would do length of the list. You would do length of the list. Yeah.
Oh, length.
Land list. Once again, land. Right. You have an object, size of the object. Your address. Right. Useful functions. And now, once again, remove. Once again, pop removes the last element. Remove removes the first instance of an element. Everyone okay with that? Good. Any questions about lists? That's basically. There's a lot more about lists, but I think these are all the basics you need. If you do it early, please fill out the form. You can tell me about how poorly I taught today. Listen, in the form. Take it. Otherwise, my mom's gonna kill me. That little me. Scary dude. Everyone okay with lists?
That was the first instance of that element.
Remove, you have to specify that element. It removes the first instance of it. Pop, which always removes the Dictionaries, now we can assign various items to different categories. Right? So I have name, major biology. And say I want to get the major of the student. You go to the student, you just, instead of the index, you put whatever the major is. Okay? Is everyone okay with that? If I want to change it, student. Pick a major. Right? Okay. So essentially it's biology. Now you change it to computer science, really similar to lists, but instead of indices, that's how I think of it. Instead of having numbers for indices, you have specific values. That's what's easy to like look up. Right? I change it, and I press the student, it shows everything recording with it. You can also add different things. So say I want to add, instead of like a pen, I want to add a new category for the student. Say I want to add a page. You just do student, square brace, new category, whatever value you want. Right?
So is this like creating an object?
Yes, this is the object for a student. It's a dictionary. Right? Let's add it. Give me a category.
Page,
You already have that.
GPA,
Okay. How smart is Maya?
4.0.
One for student. Hi, me. GPA 4.0. I want to change GPA. So I can change it. My failed course, you know, these people like. Updates. Fancier list, think about it like that. It has a lot more uses in it, right? I'm sorry, I thought it was me. It has a lot more uses to it. It's very useful. You'll see later on when we like, you know, give you like a couple of examples where these data structures are very useful. And they each have elements. So for example here, I want the keys. These indices that I mentioned, indices, inherently they're called keys. Right? So you have the keys, then you print name, major, see that? Name, major, age, GPA. And the values, these are like whatever's corresponding to each key. Right? So what's the age, the name, Maya, major, computer science, age 20, GPA, 3.5. Right?
Can we use this dictionary to create like a new object for a new student?
Oh, I see what you're saying, like in terms of Java, like
Like a
algebra.
builder and then.
No, that's like algebra programming, like separate in bio. Dictionary, like if you want to create a new student, you have to like physically create, like student one is yada yada yada, student two equals. You have to like manually do it. I see what you're saying, you know. Object-oriented programming, separate, it's possible in Python. I don't like it. It's very like tedious. For Java, Java won't build object-oriented programming. But I see what you're saying. Like, no, this isn't a student object. It's just a dictionary name.
Just one singular instance.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Any questions? We're gonna go dictionaries. Hi.
So do the keys in the return a list of keys and values?
That's what it is. It's a list. List of keys. List of values. Yeah. I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever we did with lists or for key and student keys, we're key. Right? We do the same thing when we do with lists. We're going to the list. Same thing over here. Right? Values. Here we have. I'm not going to go over tuples in this today's thing. It's necessary. Basically, we have like little pairs. Once again, I see what you're saying. This list is like the big values, you have keys, right? Each individual one. You can also use a list of like tuples. It's like name, Maya, major, computer science, and else. Major computer science, age, GPA. So it's inherently lists. Okay, that's enough talking. Let's do a couple of recos. you're gonna move now. They're basically little bubbles. Feel free to try it on your own. Right. Alright, so I have 3 easy tunnels. You got 2 songs. You got max consecutive ones, and you have pound and number. So yeah, feel free to try them out on your own. I've spoken for quite a bit. And yeah, you have until 1:30. If you need help, right. Oh, I told him already. Before leaving, he's the boss at security. Both of them. Please fill out the feedback form before you leave, okay? I'm joking. No, they're really nice. They're very sweet. Right, King? Okay. But yeah, feel free to work with each other. You want to talk about what? I have a special talk for you. So, special talks. What's that name? Huh? What is that? Not really. I'm not going to part of the thing, but there's solutions up anyway, so. Huh?